All right, welcome to our podcast today where what we're doing is interviewing the leadership team of Nexus IT. So just a high overview of who Nexus IT is. We're a managed service provider, so for easy terms, we manage IT for our customers, and then we solve cybersecurity problems. We've been around for over 25 years. We have customers all over the country, and we love what we do. Our tagline is Nexus IT, IT managed, cybersecurity solved, which I love that. Today, we have with us Eddie Varela. So Eddie manages our projects team, and I'll let him do a little introduction to himself, what he does, his day-to-day. Eddie, kick it off for us.
Yeah, so I manage our projects team. My team is responsible for several different activities within the company. First off, we have the onboarding team that falls under us, as well as anything that's a add, move, or change. My role is a little bit of a kind of a dual role. I act as the manager over the employees that are under me. I also act as a project manager for several different projects. And then I do help out in several other areas of the business as well.
Awesome. Yeah, Eddie's kind of like if you need someone to get stuff done, it goes to Eddie. He's being modest. He also, when he says he project manages any of our largest and most deep and in-depth engagements, Eddie is the owner of those, which it has been awesome to have someone with his leadership capabilities, but his ability to project manage and lead and to execute. Because in the end, your job is to make sure stuff gets done for our customers. And ever since we've had you've helped lead to get that done. So he's a modest guy, and so that's my job to kind of make you less humble.
Fair enough.
So talking about your journey, share with us, how did you get into the IT field, and kind of what has been, a synopsis of your journey. And then on the flip side of that, tell us about your journey as a leader. What got you to be a leader, and how has that been successful for you?
Yeah, I either wanted to be in the medical field or the IT field when I was in school when I was a kid. I knew it was one of those two directions. And when I ended up in college, I kind of learned real quickly, taking some different emergency medicine classes and things like that, I would burn out on that. And I was like, okay, so I definitely want to go the other direction. I love computers. I played a lot of video games when I was younger, like a lot of people from my generation. And I started taking more technical classes. And my first job I ever had was actually as an intern for T-Mobile. And I actually got to kind of intern in different departments. And one of the ones that I interned in was their IT department in the call center that I worked in. That was my first experience working in a data center environment, helping rack and stack different things. And it was from that point on, I was like, okay, I found what I want to do. I'm really liking this. And from there, I kind of worked some small jobs, did some field service, eventually ended up working for some, large multi-billion dollar, big name companies in the industry, bunch of different things. I kind of moved up through technical support in a couple different companies, and I almost always ended up being a coach of any team that I was on. And that did lead me to eventually become a manager on multiple teams. I would leave one company, start somewhere else, and within 6 months to a year, I would kind of be back in the same, coaching or leadership type role. And eventually I started to realize I'm a bit of a people person when it comes to how I manage people. And it kind of led me in that same direction, going forward, looking for more type leadership roles instead of just, technical support type roles.
Awesome. So one of the terms that stuck out to me was a coach. In many of the roles that we all go through, we might not be the titled leader.
Right.
So tell us about what your thoughts are different from being a coach on any team, whether you have the title leader or not. Because I feel like being a coach, anywhere you can be a coach.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the type of advice I actually even give like people who want to aspire to be leaders. Is, if you are helping other people, you're coaching them, you're taking the knowledge that you've learned and giving it to other people. It helps you grow as a person. It helps you grow as a leader, just because the more I would help other people learn something, it reinforced my own skills. And the more I helped other people, the more the team's kind of knowledge and skill level increased and got better. And I learned over time that's really what leadership is actually all about. It's not just what you can do, it's what your team does. And I always grade myself regardless of when it comes to metrics of what my team is doing, not just, what, time that I put in, on each day.
I love that. That is fantastic. And like building off of what you said, coaching and helping others. So what do you do and what's your process to help inspire your team?
Yeah, inspiration is one of those things I never see myself as somebody who's inspirational, but I always like to work with anybody that reports to me as an individual. There are definitely things that, you treat everybody as a team and you try to be fair and stuff like that, but I'm very much a kind of a relationship or kind of almost social type manager when it comes to people. I like to get to know them, what their likes and dislikes are, and just have a really good professional, but, relationship that I can actually build with people. It helps me learn, how they like to work, the types of work they like to do, and it really helps me encourage them to do things in a way that, maybe they hadn't thought about. If I can listen to somebody, and hear what it is that they want to do, but maybe they're not quite sure how to get there, I can give advice to help point them in that direction. I actually had a person recently like, I think I want to be a manager. And it kind of comes back to the previous thing I was saying is they weren't quite sure how to get there. And I've always encouraged people to, well, if you're helping other people grow, it helps you and it helps them. And that really, is a good way to help inspire not even yourself, but just inspire them, but also yourself when you're working in those types of situations.
I love that. I think that's again, I'm talking about Eddie, who's a humble guy. And he just said, I don't think of myself as being inspirational. And I think sometimes we sensationalize these words, but as we lead people and guide people and are real with people, that is kind of where inspiration comes from. Where people are like, man, he's a real guy getting stuff done. And I want to be like that. There's not the pomps and circumstance. He doesn't need all the pats on the back, those sort of things. So, just kudos to you and that being that's
Thank
who
you.
you are. But also I love that leadership style. And that's, one of the things you do a very good job of here on our team and help others. So this isn't a question, but that I have on the list, but I thought about it. In roles where people are looking to be a manager, sometimes I think that people want to manage. And so what would you say the difference between management and leadership is? Because sometimes I think those sometimes are the same, but many times, especially here at a technical company, we have people who are leaders but shouldn't manage other people because that's not where their skill set lies. But that doesn't take away the fact that they could be a great leader. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've always liked talking about that distinction because especially in some of the background I've had, you have project managers, you have managers, you have people managers, and then you have leaders. And I definitely think there's a huge distinction. We were talking about with inspiring people, getting to know them, very much leadership qualities. Most people can learn how to manage, whether it's managing situations and managing people, if it's, managing their time cards and managing like kind of their day to day, but it's definitely, it's a lot harder to, as you kind of said, inspire and lead people. And I've always seen, like we were saying, the coaching aspect is a big part of that. I don't like the idea of telling people or trying to lead them into doing something that I, wouldn't do myself. And I think that's a big part of, the difference between managing and leading.
I love that. That's fantastic. So tell us, outside of, slaying it here at Nexus IT, what do you like to do personally?
Actually, like a lot of my career, I did a lot of field service, did a lot of hands-on stuff. And as I started doing more leadership, I sat behind a desk a lot more. I've kind of moved a lot of the things I like to do from sitting behind a desk, playing video games and stuff like that over time to now I do things like like to go camping. In the summer, I tend to like to be outside a lot. Even if it's socializing with people, I tend to like to be outside. When it's cold inside, I tend to do a lot more projects around the house. Like I'm remodeling a couple bathrooms in my house right now. So I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades. So like, gutting and remodeling a bathroom is I don't see that as too much of a challenge. I actually think it's kind of fun, and that's what I'll spend my weekends doing. Sometimes working after work on that kind of stuff.
I love that. Yeah, we can attest to that. There's a lot of little projects that need to get done that, everyone's like, oh, I don't really want to get that. We need to mount these TVs or whatever it may be that help us, understand our metrics better, all of those things. And Eddie's always the first, like, hey, not only am I willing to do it, but I can actually do a good job. Because there is a difference of willingness and capability, but he's got both. So
Yep, mounting a couple TVs on the wall in the new office here tonight.
yes. So we talked about this outside this meeting, but and are there any books, podcasts, or anything that you utilize as a leader that help you grow and help you be that leader versus the manager?
Yeah, so every time I think about this, I'm not always a huge fan of a lot of some of the more popular leadership books and things like that. I do kind of have my own style that I like to run. But one of the things that I liked when I read it, and I kind of works in many parts of my life, is maybe a more provocative title, but it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. It's supposed to be a kind of a little bit of a twist on a self-help type book. But I do find the author's points. His name is Mark Manson, and he wants people to learn to make decisions based on the things that are the most important, not worrying about societal expectations or trivial concerns. And I find that is actually really important, not just in the day-to-day life, but even in being a leader. It happens all the time where we are trying to balance different priorities, and you have to make sure that you're making sure that the priorities are priorities. They're not just a list of things that you need to get done. And the book is really good about kind of making sure that you're learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, a term that we like to use on the leadership team regularly.
We do.
And, the title's kind of provocative, and the way that the author, I liked the audiobook was actually really good too. I have actually read it, part of the book, and listened to it, and it makes you uncomfortable because he's very straightforward and doesn't sugarcoat things. But it kind of makes you really think about the way that, are you listing and trying to do things based on what everybody else is telling you to do, or are you trying to do things for yourself and better what you're doing in your life? And I think those concepts are actually amazing in leadership, because there's 100 different things coming at us at any given time, and you need to definitely be able to prioritize the important ones and focus on those and try to make sure there's not too much noise in everything else that you're doing.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, going back to like one of the most famous books, Good to Great, but that's kind of it. I think so often the challenge is, how do we focus on what will make us be great versus being stuck in doing so many good things, and that's hard. I mean, I've read so many books, and there's a bunch of different recipes to get there, but it is all about priorities. And I love what you said, and we do talk about this all the time. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, and then being able to do that with your team. But if you think about, building muscle or building strength or anything it may be, when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're growing.
Definitely.
And it's hard. I mean, it's easy for us to sit on a nice, comfortable couch and say, be comfortable being uncomfortable, when really, I mean, you can't see the coffee table, but it's like made of solid steel. So maybe we should kick that so we can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, you'd definitely be uncomfortable there.
So the last question I have, and then we'll wrap things up, is, can you share a fun or surprising fact about yourself that maybe we don't know, or maybe other team members wouldn't know, or just that you'd like to share about you?
Yeah, I think whenever I get asked that question, I always kind of like to talk about in college. I was actually in a fraternity, and a lot of people always find that a little bit surprising because of the just the type of person I am. Because I'm kind of that jack of all trades. I like to work hard, but I also like to play hard. So that's one of those things. I always like to bring that up, and people always are like, you don't seem like the type, because there's a lot of stereotypes around college fraternities and things like that. But also, I actually do think it was one of the more important phases in my life, learning in school not to be just, going to the classes and learning knowledge, but also part of that building relationships and getting to know people. It got me involved in more philanthropy when I was younger, and it's really kind of guided a lot of things that I do in my life, even though it's not something I actually talk about a lot because I try not to like reminisce on college or something like
Yeah.
that. But that's something I like to tell people. That's a little bit of a surprise sometimes.
That's cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Eddie. First of all, I appreciate everything you do, your leadership on the team, the depth and education and who you are, what you bring to the team is fantastic. So, I applaud you and thank you for that. And how you're helping us grow and be uncomfortable and be better. So I appreciate that. So we'll close the day. My ending remarks I steal from Ron Burgundy. Stay classy, San Diego.